St. Vincent de Paul has a magnificent tradition of serving those in need throughout our community, and all that is made possible because of people that embrace our mission and really help us to make the gospel come to life for those in need. Joining me today is Father Trey Nelson. Father Nelson, tell us a little bit about your spiritual journey, your parents, how you have become such a successful priest.
Oh, wow. Well, I tell everybody that my family is huge in my life, and I really owe everything to my family and to the Brothers of the Sacred Heart. When we were growing up, my family, we were about church and religion and being involved, but really my mom and dad and my grandparents, they were about faith. They were very open about living and expressing their faith in the home and out of the home. They weren't just churchgoers. They got involved in the parish, they got involved in other projects, helping people, and that was the basis. I know my brother and my 5 sisters would all say the same thing. Church is a huge part of our life, but really bigger than that, it's faith, and just seeing your parents embrace it every day. It's in our blood, it's who we are. So I attribute everything to that. I would have never heard my calling if it wasn't for them and the brothers. I would have never had the freedom to embrace it. I remember when I told my parents I was thinking about priesthood, I thought they were going to go nuts. And I remember my dad saying, I just want you to be happy, but you're going to have to make some decisions here. I was coming to the end of college. He goes, you're going to have to make some decisions, but we want you to be happy. We'll support you, whatever. So in a big way, that's where it began for me. And I'm just eternally grateful for that, so.
Well, as you know, the Brothers of the Sacred Heart mean so much to me, and a lot of people don't know Father Trey is in the Hall of Fame and a Hall of Famer, and I think, I think when the brothers look at all the things they've done through the years, encouraging men like yourself to pursue religious life, that's number one on the agenda.
Sure.
Well, who are some of the brothers that kind of really you look up to? I think of Brother Donenberry. I think of all the Brother Francis.
Yeah, well, Brother Donen was my dad's mentor. The brothers I knew and were close to, and in some cases still are, Brother Xavier, some have passed, Brother Herman, and so on and so forth. But really, it's also, Michael, it's the thing about the Brothers of the Sacred Heart, wherever the school is, it's the people who work with them embrace their mission and their ministry. And really I look at Catholic High, for example, where I went. They're so good at fostering this understanding of fellowship and brotherhood and attention to the poor. That's a conscious effort. And you'll have students every year who will line up to sign up for mission trips, habitat projects. Habitat for Humanity is really big at Catholic High, for example. So those are just some of the guys. A lot of them have passed. They're experiencing the same issues we are with their numbers. But yeah, the Brothers of the Sacred Heart, their mission, their ministry, one of the basic philosophies in the rule of life is to be for one another. And I think this is so awesome.
Yeah.
A living human memory of Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think that's not only poetic, I think it's powerful. I think it's a good standard for a way of living, especially when you're with people who are hurting, when you're with people who don't have a job, they're looking for a job, they're suffering. To be a living human memory of Jesus is kind of a standard for me. And I like you, I don't always get it right, but that's the standard, and it came from them.
You get it right. You're fantastic. And for a young man out there that might be thinking of the priesthood like you were at one time, what would your advice be, whether they're at Catholic High, another Catholic school, or just regular school? What would your message be?
My advice first, in general, would be open. There's going to be some fear and anxiety, but try not to let that overcome you. 3 bits of advice. That's the first, just the openness, and that's going to come primarily through some kind of prayer life. You've got to have a regular time in your day where you just sit and listen, which is what college students tell me they really struggle with the most. The second thing is you need a mentor. You need someone that you can talk with who's balanced and has a healthy approach, not just to ministry, but to life. And then thirdly, depending on where they fall and they're considering this, allow yourself the time, the months, the years, and this is going to sound bad, to live a normal life. maybe to finish college if you're in college. A lot of these guys are studying engineering or whatever. Allow yourself the opportunity to live a normal life. Yeah, that's the way I'm going to put it. But mainly just to know from guys like me, and I can name other guys who would sit in this chair and say the same thing. I mean, I love what I do. And there have been moments where I've really struggled with it, after I had been really sick, for example. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. And it's a beautiful life. I'm not saying that it's always easy, but neither is marriage.
Right.
Any vocation that you take seriously, it's going to have difficult days. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's just that sense of openness and having someone you can connect with and talk honestly with about what you're thinking and ask the questions that maybe you're afraid to ask, So I had a guy ask me last night, so like, what do you do? And I said, what do you mean? He's like, at work? No, I know what you do all day. What do you do when the day is over? And I thought that was a really good question, especially if you're living alone, So we had a really good conversation about that. And so,
How do you balance everything? I mean, I think, I administer things at St. Vincent de Paul,
Right.
but I don't have those priestly duties that you have. You've got all this to do, big parish, school. How do you balance it all?
Part of it is practical. I'm blessed with a wonderful staff, a team, and my philosophy is, especially if it's a big decision, you listen to people, and then you have to call the play in the end. But there's very little that I do solo. I'm not a Lone Ranger. I'm not. That's even with my family. We try to make decisions together as a family, and like caring for my mom, for example. Yeah, I have a good team. I got an excellent administration at school. I just try to talk to people who can mentor me, and that's one of the issues I'm facing right now. You want to know a struggle. I mean, I have no mentors, really. My mentor was Father Mike Collins, and Mike passed. And so if part of being a mentor is that it's someone older, I'm kind of at a midpoint right now. But someone to guide you. But I'll tell you what a big thing is along with, you need to have a way to plan your day. Boundaries are huge. I mean, sometimes you have to say no.
Yes.
For example, in the evenings, you want to be available for emergencies. But if you have a free evening, relax. You don't necessarily have to fill that 2 hours with work. But sometimes you have to say no, and the balance, the art is knowing when to say no and when not,
And that's where somebody like Father Collins serves as such and what a saintly man.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Yeah.
That was tough. So.
Yeah, he what a special person.
Yeah.
And I know that many people look at you as a mentor and the way you handle yourself and the way you perform your duties. What would your message be to people like me? Although we're very close in age,
Sure.
We're about 4.5 years apart in age. But
you look older.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. I love you, Father. But anyway, with that said, in reality, I mean, I do. I look up to you. I always have. And so what would your message be to people like myself, and mostly people younger, too, that are looking up at Father Trey saying, wow, man, how's he doing all this? How is he balancing all that? What would your message be to them?
I mean, like anybody, I could give a litany of things that help me to keep it together, so to speak. But if I was to pick one, I would say this. You need to be able to stop daily. We live in a time, a world, or whatever, which I know sounds cliche, where nobody likes to wait and nobody likes to stop. And prayer, Sabbath time, it can't be lived and done like you're going through a yellow light. You have to stop. I talk about what I call the INGs of prayer, refreshing, life-giving, strengthening, whatever. But it can't be any of that unless it's stopping. And I think a lot of people just don't stop. And so I think sometime every day to be able to do that, not just to plan your tasks, your goals, but to breathe in what God wants to give you and breathe out the junk, that's crucial. And a lot of people don't do it. I fall into it, and I got to remind myself, So that's one thing I would just pick, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. And it's almost like we all need a junk meter to know when it's time.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you get this high in junk, when you want to keep it way down low, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes, when you do get that overwhelmed feeling, how do you turn that switch? How do you, I guess it's the answer you gave earlier, say no.
Yeah, there are two things I do. I have time planned every day to pray. In my planner that I use, at the top of each page, it asks you to list your daily big three things that got to happen today. And I always write, number one is prayer routine. The other thing, too, though, is if I'm looking ahead at a week and I can see it's going to be a particularly busy week, if I can just see a frame where there's going to be some downtime and I know that's coming, then I'm fine.
Yeah.
It's when it looks like that's not coming.
Right.
And you can be in control a lot of that, I think the church has a wonderful tradition of morning and evening prayers, sunrise and sunset. The surroundings alone provide you this wonderful opportunity to enter into God's presence, the morning and evening prayer that we as priests pray and so on. But yeah, it does involve saying no, but a routine's a big part of it, and sticking to that's what I found is the hardest part about my daily planning work routine is, okay, it works when you work in the program.
Right.
Because it's very easy, like exercising or going to the dentist or these things that everybody it's very easy to get out of.
Right.
So that's what I shoot for.
Yeah.
And some days are harder than others. But
Yes, indeed. Some days are marathon days. Some weeks are marathon weeks.
Months.
And
like May is crazy in the church. Graduations, Mother's Day.
My goodness.
You name it. Easter's over and whatever. So.
Yeah, I find November, December, and May. Those are the top three.
May is tough.
It is tough.
I had all these graduations this year and graduation gifts, and I tell everybody the bank is closed.
I understand. It's only so much we can do.
Yeah.
Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about marathon days relative to helping those in need. You never can stop that. You have to have balance, and you have to do what's necessary to make an impact in our local community. For over 20 years, the St. Vincent de Paul Community Pharmacy has served our area. We provide prescription medicines for those who have nowhere to turn for this most basic healthcare need. Please, if you need your medicine or you know a family member that needs their medicine, contact us. Kay, how can they get in touch?
383-7450.
Give us a call today and spread the word so that we can ensure no one goes without their prescription medication. Welcome back. We're going to continue our discussions with Father Trey, and we're going to talk about keeping balance in our lives, the marathon of trying to get everything done. But I know, Father Trey, you have a real care and concern for those in need. And talk a little bit about St. Vincent de Paul and St. Jude's efforts, Jobs for Life.
Okay. Well, to begin with, as you know, for many years now, St. Jude has a very, very strong St. Vincent de Paul ministry. It's amazing to me. Every Monday, they're in our parish hall, they're doing interviews, they're helping people. We are constantly having phone calls and people walk into our office seeking some kind of assistance. And so between the society itself and our parish staff, we have a routine that I think realistically meets as many expectations and hopes as we can. The newest initiative, however, that our director, Reggie Brown, came to me with, is called Jobs for Life. And I don't know if I've been as excited about any program in a while as I have this one. And people can go to the St. Jude Parish website if they want to read about it. But Jobs for Life is a deeply, deeply faith-based jobs training program. It's a series. And it's designed for people who aren't working and they want to work, but as I understand it, they want more than just a job. They want to be stronger in their sense of purpose, okay, and dignity, which is obviously what the church should be all about, not just, putting food in someone's hands, but helping them to go further, so to speak. And so that's what Jobs for Life is. And St. Vincent de Paul, Jobs for Life, and St. Jude Parish, we're kind of partnering this together. They're going to use the church's facilities, and it's all volunteer-based. So, for example, we don't know how many people are going to enroll to go through the course, But the teachers will be volunteer, the mentor type people will be volunteer. And so we had a volunteer information night at St. Jude. We made announcements and we had posters at every Mass. We talked about it. And I walked into the room and Reggie was so happy. I think he was almost crying. There were like 40 people there. And these are all people who want to buy into a program that helps those who want to work be prepared for that. And it will help with anything from identifying your gifts to building a resume to preparing for an interview. And it runs from September through the end of October, and then in November there'll be a little bit of a graduation ceremony. I'm not sure, again, how many will actually enroll to take part in the process. But when I walked into the parish hall that night, and there were 30 to 40 people there from St. Jude and the surrounding community who want to volunteer, I'm like, wow, this is what it needs to be about. So that's what Jobs for Life is, and Jobs for Life, say a little prayer. It's a big deal. I'm hoping it goes well.
I love the name.
Yeah,
I mean,
Jobs for Life. Right.
I mean, and it's also, we were talking in the earlier segment about how to, balance ourselves and how when we know we're going to get a little break, there's a little hope there.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine the hope this is providing someone who maybe has trouble getting a job.
Right. Or don't know where to start.
Oh, yeah. And, some of the younger generation, the millennials, their communication skills are used to talking like this on the cell phone.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something that they've got to develop. A program like this helps them to do that.
Yeah, and there are people who aren't working who maybe perhaps feel that they have nothing to offer. And everybody has something to offer. Again, they just don't know where to start or how to make it happen. And we're hoping that Jobs for Life can be kind of a catalyst for that, all within the context of faith.
Yeah, and everything we do is led by that faith and that hope and that energy of going out. When we were off camera, you were mentioning you're the pastor for all the Catholics in the St. Jude parish boundary, but you're also pastor for those who are in need. So when somebody does show up at your door for help with rent or utilities, you have to have a response.
Yeah, we're in a unique part of town. I mean, others are too, but the city says that we're on and I don't like the term, but we're on a negative footprint in terms of crime and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But also the poverty in our area, it's obvious. And so there's a lot of opportunity. We partner with the Gardeer Initiative, the Gardeer Christian School, and so on and so forth. And I really think that those people in the parish who are involved in these kinds of things, I mean, they wouldn't want this and they wouldn't want me to say this, but these are your gold medal people. I mean, these are people who do in ministry what a lot of people either aren't comfortable doing or don't take the time to do, and so on. And so I'm really proud of them. I really am.
Well, you talk comfort. To go and do this work, and it takes you out your comfort zone, and you have so many parishioners involved in that. And what do you think that helps all our spiritual growth when we step out of that comfort zone?
Well, I like the adage, Jesus came to comfort the disturbed and to disturb the comfortable. And I think because of the time we're living in, it's very easy not only to become comfortable, but to remain comfortable. And then the other reality that I'm coming to understand more and more is to not even realize that that's where you're at. It's like we took guys on, I was on senior retreat for Catholic High, and Scott Lasavio, the director, walks up to me. He goes, they don't know they need to stop until they stop. We don't know how comfortable we are. We take a lot for granted. I say in my office a lot of times I think we're kind of soft and spoiled in some ways, and I know that's negative. But I think a lot of times we're really, really comfortable and used to certain things, and we need something to pull us out of that. Mm-hmm. And nothing does it like an openness to serving the poor. Mm-hmm. And it helps you realize how blessed you are, but it really helps you realize what you're supposed to be about. I mean, Jesus said it himself. How many times have you quoted it? The poor you will always have, me you will not always have. So what does that move us to do? If it's not moving us to do anything, that's not good. But if it is, that's wonderful, So Jesus came to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfortable. I would ask everybody right now to ask yourselves, do you need to be disturbed a little bit in that sense, especially when it comes to the needy around you?
Yeah. Well, as Vincentians, we're called to see the face of Christ in those we serve. And I've heard Vincentians from St. Jude and others say that, that seeing Christ in the poor is essential to their ministry, but they really are excited when they feel like the person they're helping is seeing Christ in them.
Yeah,
so that's a
right,
powerful.
Right. It goes both ways.
Yeah. It's so very important in a world today that needs the bright light of Christ, right?
It's that Brothers of the Sacred Heart philosophy to be a living human memory of Jesus, a reflection of that. So.
Well, when we come back, Father Trey has a secret he's going to share with all of us, and I'm going to tell you it's a neat one when we come back.
My Bicycle Journey, a book that tells a story. It educates, it promotes, and it also provides some leadership. Take the time to purchase this book, and St. Vincent de Paul benefits from all of the proceeds of this book. Please, if you would, give St. Vincent de Paul a call and let me know what you think of My Bicycle Journey.
Here's a secret, Father Trey. We talked about balance and keeping things in balance, and you shared something with me I think is neat. Tell us about when you go on vacation, you have 2 cell phones.
Yeah. There are 3 times in my regular life when I do not even take my phone with me. One is when I go for my oncology checkup. The other is when I exercise. And then the third is when I'm on vacation. Now, there are going to be people out there who don't believe that, but it's a fact. And when I go on vacation, as long as I have an emergency option lined up for me being away, I turn my regular phone off, and I have a second phone that is with me and it's on. And my nephew, who is 12, calls it the bat phone, even though he probably has no idea about the old Batman,
Yes, indeed.
But yeah, and at first he goes, the bad phone, because it's just a little flip phone. He goes, it's a bad phone. No, it's the bat phone, and I think maybe 5 people total have that number.
Yes, indeed.
So if I'm on vacation and that phone rings, that means it's fairly serious. But I used to feel terribly guilty about it, carrying them both. I'm like, not now. So
that's it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the balance. I mean, and we talked about quiet time. We talked about the investment in prayer. But what you're talking about is investment in yourself. Christ calls us to give to others, but Christ also calls us to give to ourselves.
Well, look at how many times in the gospel it specifically says, very early in the morning, before dawn, before everyone else is up and awake, he arose to go off, quote, by himself. And he was always found at prayer, hey, we got to go, we got all this stuff to do. And in his own nice Jesus-like way, he would say, well, it can wait, but now we got to go. But yeah, I do the phone thing. It requires the willingness to disconnect from people you love dearly. Because I'm going to tell you what, Michael, and this is just me, and this sounds like a judgment, but it's just perception. Most people have 0 boundaries when it comes to text messaging and phone calls and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I mean, it's like, I don't text or call anybody before or after certain hours.
Right.
So you have to be the one to boundary it up, if you want to use it as a verb.
Yes.
I don't know if that's grammatically correct, but you have to be the one to do it because other people are not going to do it.
Right.
I often wonder how doctors survive. I got to believe, as an example, physicians.
Right.
They have to be able to develop a way to not let everything suck the life right out of them.
Right.
And it's not just for doctors or priests or people who are helpers. Everybody, families, parents, single parents, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And look at what our kids are seeing. It's like, I think life would be a lot better if every evening parents would just take their phones from their younger children and say, you'll get it tomorrow. But it ain't happening. And that's one of the issues that, that's the challenging thing. So.
Well, I think you just gave a solution, something I struggle with, and other guests on the show have talked about struggling with. When we look at Christ, we see that perfect example, and we're trying to pursue that perfect example, and we're so imperfect. If you don't have boundaries, you get lost because we're not going to ever acquire perfection, are we, Father?
This is what I've learned. The more available you are,
yes,
the more available people expect you to be.
Gotcha.
And it's true.
Yes, it is. And if you try to live up to unattainable expectations, you're going to let people down, and you're going to let yourself down more.
You're going to hurt
anything.
yourself.
Yep.
In the long run. You'll hurt.
Because you have to be the best you can be.
Right.
For those when it is time for you to be the best you can be. And if you rob yourself every day, if you don't invest, you're not, you kind of, that.
I mean, I know it's cliche and overused, and some people are going to hear this and laugh. I heard it first in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
You can't give what you don't have. And I think these kinds of ideas we need to revisit,
Right.
So, anyway.
Well, at St. Vincent de Paul, we always look at everyone as a child of God. Sometimes when we look in the mirror, we forget that we are a child of God and that we should treat ourselves with, forgiveness and, not saying, oh, I screwed up or I messed up. Isn't forgiveness in our own personal lives an essential part of, because, there's some expectations that we just can't meet.
No, you're very right. To be able to live your life and not beat yourself up when you make a mistake or accidentally hurt someone. The one thing, I was talking to a guy in college last night who came over to visit. He's 21. I said, the one thing God does not want you to do is to beat yourself up. Be honest about your weakness, but accept the compassion and draw life from it and move on. But other people's expectations can really weigh heavily. And if you try to make that your goal, okay, fine, go for it. But you're going to be disappointed in the end, so anyway.
Well, with 1 minute or so to go, what would your message be out there to the audience about what is going to strengthen their relationship with Christ? What can they do, number one, of all the things you've shared with us, what can they do to really strengthen that relationship?
Well, it's going to sound oversimplistic, but I genuinely mean it. We've been talking a lot about this notion of trying to find some time every day where you can stop, turn off the world, and breathe. Have your Sabbath moment. We've all but lost the sense of the Sabbath in the U.S. today. And I know it's the priestly thing to say, but if you don't pray, there's no way. You can get through the day, but it's going to be more stressful, and just keep your prayer life in your own way. However you pray, however you stop and breathe, do it. Do it. I could give you a long list of stuff, but that'd be at the top of the list.
Well, Father Trey, thank you for all you do for the diocese, for your parish. Thank you for being my mentor, my hero, being a Hall of Famer at Catholic High. And he said it, if there's no prayer, there's no way. And so you must pray. And we're going to end the show, Beacons of Light, today with saying, turn off the TV and go and have that quiet moment and pray. And we'll see you again next week on Beacons of Light.